Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, my friends. I'm glad you're here. This is Acquisitional Wealth, episode number 6. I am your host, Josh Tully, and I'm so excited about today's episode. Before we get started, if this is your first time joining us, I want to remind you, go back and listen to, watch, however you're enjoying this medium, episode number 1. It's foundational to this whole topic, and it'll really help you enjoy all the other episodes. Also, you can follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and a group, absolutely free to join. It's for people who want to discuss this topic and just get involved and meet like-minded people. And as for this topic, acquisitional wealth, it is the fastest, most proven, solid way to create life-changing wealth in the history of the world. And this, like I said, is episode 6. All right, so today we're going to talk about a topic that I find is really, really fascinating for a couple different reasons, and that's this idea of, can I buy a business and be completely an absentee owner? Before I get to the answer, let's talk about why it's so popular. The first reason why it's so popular is because it's promoted on the internet all the time. If you've ever looked at, how to buy a business, acquiring a business, entrepreneurship through acquisition, acquisitional wealth, whatever, right? You will find people who are like, hey, learn how to buy a business with no money down, no money down, no money down, no money down. So obviously that sounds appealing. That sounds attractive. I mean, my goodness gracious, if I could buy a Ferrari with no money down, would you buy it? Yeah. So I get it. The second part of this, is it possible? Yeah, it is. It is possible. I've done it. $1. Technically, you're not supposed to have no money down transfers or what's called no consideration. There's supposed to be some form of consideration, but we can get into that later. But I have done not only $1 down, I've done $1 purchase prices. So $1 businesses. So is it possible? Yes. So that would lead the average listener to think, well, then Josh is all for it, right? No, I'm not. As appealing as it is, as wonderful as it can be, it is not the preferred method to go. And we'll get into it a little bit. So really, before I get into why and what to look out for and what to look for, what I really want you to do is ask yourself, why is that what you're looking for? Really, I mean, be honest. Why are you looking for a free, no money down business? Now, I will throw in an asterisk. When we get to topics like roll-ups and stuff like that, it is very possible to have no money down. But I'm considering that a completely different spectrum. That's when you already own one great, good, successful business and you want to acquire another one in the same vertical. And, you get it for no money down. That makes sense because you're actually technically getting an expansion loan at that point, not an acquisition loan. But I digress, and that's a whole nother topic. And keep listening. I'll do a whole show on that. But what I'm referring to right now is you're buying a brand new business. Well, it's brand new to you, right? So you're just hopping into this thing, and you're thinking, I want to put no money down. Why? And the reason I want you to ask yourself why is because I've been doing this a long time. It reveals more about you than it does the quality of the business you're about to buy. For most people, they're looking for the no money down option because then they don't have to put any of their own money in. And you'd be thinking, well, duh, Josh, isn't that the reason you do it? No. And if you're thinking that way, you're a perfect example of somebody who should never do a no money down business. When I do a no money down business, I'm not doing it because, oh, yippee, I get to save all my money. No. I'm doing it because the business strategy with this purchase warrants not paying anything down. See the difference? I mean, it's huge. It's huge, the difference. One is trying to say, well, I just want to pinch every penny. I don't want to put more money in play than I need to. I've worked hard for that $80,000 that I have, and if I can do this without putting any money out of my pocket, that's what I want to do. That's terrible. That's absolutely heinous. And more often than not, your no money down acquisition is going to fail. Sorry, I don't care what the online guru is about to tell you. More often than not, it's going to fail. And it's going to fail because not only are you picking up a business that's no money down. I mean, let's just be honest. A no money down business is no money down for a reason. Just saying. Why is the Ferrari never a no money down buy? Because it's worth it. You get what you pay for. There is so much truth to that. If you're looking at most no money down purchases, you're buying a business that isn't going to sell in a traditional manner. Either it's been listed for too long and they're not finding a buyer, there's a problem with the business itself. Now, you could, and obviously somebody's going to argue in the comments, well, Josh, if you're a good negotiator, then you can get a great business and just promise the guy an earn out and all that. I know everything you know. It's not like this is a new industry or a new topic. It's been around forever. Everything you're about to object with, I know it. And I'm not saying that to sound, egotistical, but it's an established industry. It's not, contrary to what you might be thinking, nothing is a secret or a surprise in this industry. It's just new to you, so you get pitched and marketed to as if it's a secret. And there's a reason for that too. But I get all the arguments, and I'm just being quite honest. I've been doing this for a while. The no money down purchases that are being purchased because the people don't want to give up money out of their own pocket usually fail. And not only because there's typically something wrong with the business, and by wrong, notice the pause there, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And then this is why this topic is kind of hard to talk about. I'm a fan of buying distressed businesses. I am. I've done it. I started by saying, yes, I've done this. I've purchased no money down businesses. I've purchased $1 businesses. I've purchased businesses that churn millions of dollars a year, and I've purchased them for $1. And, maybe we'll do a show on that and how to get creative with it, and yay. And that's why people are going to initially say, well, it's good then, right? But even then, I'm telling you no. What you should be looking for in your first acquisition or even your second acquisition is something that is going to produce revenue. It is. No ifs, ands, or buts. 9 out of 10 times, that's going to require a down payment. The bigger the down payment, the better situation you're typically going to find yourself in. So remember I said there's two aspects when it comes to the no money down. First is the business itself, might be a dog with fleas. And the second aspect is it really is a huge indicator of your mindset. Success in business is 99% mental. It really is. Contrary to what somebody wants you to think, it's not people, product, process. It's not click funnels. It's not inbound, sales teams. It's none of those things. It's 99% mental. Can you make deals? Can you source opportunities? Can you have a strategy? All that stuff, mental. Well, when somebody comes to me and it's their first or second purchase and they're always talking about, oh, no money down, cheap as possible. I want to put as little money down as possible. Well, you're actually revealing your card that you're probably not mentally mature enough or ready enough. And I don't mean that as an insult. Everybody's at different points in life, right? But you're not ready to actually do this for real. You're just not. Now, if you came to me and said, Josh, I am ready to put $100,000 down out of the $105,000 I have saved up for retirement, and I want to buy that $1 million business with my 10%, $100,000 down, and then I negotiate it for you and we get a zero down payment, yay. Now we're talking. Because you were willing to commit. You were willing to say, yes, it's worth it. Yes, I'm willing to risk my hard-earned wealth to make more wealth, and I've assessed the business enough to know that it is worth the investment. Then if I can talk the dude down to a zero money down situation, I'm totally on board, and we'll pop a cork and celebrate. Wow, did you see what we just accomplished? Hallelujah. But do you see the difference? Most people who come to me and say, hey, I've heard about zero money down, businesses. I want to do that. You're not in the right mental space to do this in the first place. Does that make sense? Now, what does that have to do with Can I truly be an absentee owner? You get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. If you're going to be in a position where you want to buy a business, chill, sit back, make a couple $100,000 a year, and drink margaritas all day, is that possible? Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And I know there's a lot of naysayers out there like, no, it's not. That's not in this world. No, typically what those people are talking about is either one, they've been an employee most of their professional life, or two, they've been a small business owner. Well, Josh, isn't that what acquisitional wealth is all about? No. To me, there is a difference between small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I love growing, developing, funding, supporting entrepreneurs. Small business owners are people, let's say Bob was a plumber for 20 years at ABC Plumbing, and he decides he wants to be an entrepreneur, right? Wink, wink. And instead, he starts or buys a plumbing company that he now works 40, 50, 70, 80 hours a week. Well, Bob, in my book, is not an entrepreneur. He just bought himself his own job. That's a small business owner. That's never going to be absentee. Nope. In order to have an absentee situation, it's going to require a couple things or a mixture thereof. One, you purchase a substantially sized business. I see this mistake a lot. I see people who have the ability to buy a decent sized business get scared. And instead of putting down $80,000, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, whatever it would take, they're like, well, let's just start with something small to see if this works. I want to test it first, and I'll put down $10,000 on a $100,000 business. One, the odds of that acquisition working long term, not very good. Not very good. And look, I'm hosting a podcast called Acquisitional Wealth. You would think I'd all be about, oh no, it always works. No, you're buying a business that's one, too small. You don't have the depth, the customer base, the product range, whatever it is. You don't have enough oomph to actually make that happen. Two, you're going to be the one working 50, 80, 100, 120 hours a week. Sorry. So it's probably going to give you burnout, even if it's kind of successful. So yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. You're actually going to risk more by putting in less. And that's a huge, huge statement. You are risking more by putting in less. Now, let's do the contrast to this. Let's say you had $500,000 down, and that's 10% of a $5 million business. Is it possible to buy a $5 million business that you don't have to work in? Yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's way more possible. Because if that business is doing $5 million, there are employees there that already know how to do everything. There's a large enough staff that everything is covered. The customer base is large enough to sustain ongoing growth. You could walk away from that and just make money. Yeah. And it gets even better and better from there. 10 million, 40 million, 100 million. You buy a $100 million business, you're not showing up. Not if you don't want to. So there's that. It's actually less risky to buy a bigger business, even though that goes contrary to what most people have been taught through employment. It is absolutely true when it comes to acquisitional wealth. Does that make sense? Now, the next question around this is, well, Josh, what if I don't have enough money to do that? Okay. That's fine. Then start with whatever you can start with. If you only have $10,000 and you can buy a $100,000 business, and that business is going to produce $40,000 a year take home for you, because usually you're going to make a little bit better margin on something that small, then do it. Do it, because it's still better than being in a traditional employment situation. Make sense? And then what you do is you grow that, or just maintain it and pay off the loan or whatever. And then you sell it for, even if you just sold it for the $100,000 you bought it for, you sell it for $100,000. That gives you a 10% down payment on $1 million business. See where I'm going here? This whole flip to fortune idea that I've been teaching for years. So you're on the path. you don't have to get to the end goal right out of the gate. That's the other thing that totally messes people up. If they're like, man, I want to own a $500 million business, fly around in a private jet, never have to work a day in my life, and just be lazy. Is that possible? Yeah. Yeah. For most people, no. But does that mean you can't take advantage of the depth, the richness, the wealth associated with acquisitional wealth at a much smaller scale? Of course you still can. Of course you still can. And then you just flip. If you thought flipping houses was profitable, flip a company. And that's without any growth. Well, what if you owned that thing for 5 years and grew at 20%? Now you're selling it for $120,000. You see what I'm saying? So it's always a smarter option to start lower in acquisitional wealth than start anywhere in traditional employment. Now, with all that being said, I do want to bring up another topic, and it kind of goes back to that question of why. So when it comes to why do you want a small down payment, most people are going to say, because I want to pinch every penny. I don't want to put money at risk. And again, that just shows me you're not ready for this, period. But I want to get to the other side of, okay, so now you own it, right? Whatever it is. Why do you want to be absentee? Why? And I know somebody who knows me is going to say, well, Josh, isn't it true that you own businesses that you're absentee on? Yeah, I do. Yep. Well, Josh, doesn't that make you a hypocrite? No, because some of the businesses I own, I can't operate in. You might need a license, or you might need, well, usually that's what it is, or you might need some sort of specialized training or something, and I don't have it. That doesn't mean I can't own the company. But if you're looking at your first or second acquisition, why do you not want to be involved? You know what I'm saying? That'd be like buying the car and then never driving it. Well, I own a Ferrari. So what? I mean, the only thing that impresses, or the only people that impresses, is poor people. Poor people who can't afford a Ferrari. So now you can say, well, I own a Ferrari. Do you know who that never impresses? Rich people who can afford a Ferrari. Do you know what they're impressed by? How well you drive it. Just saying. So when you're looking at buying a business and your first default knee-jerk reaction is, well, I want to be absentee. Usually that's because you're so burned out with life as an employee. You're so stressed, the marriage problems associated with it, the raising the children problems, the no time for hobbies, all that other sort of stuff that comes along with employment, that you're mentally transferring that life into life as an entrepreneur, as a acquisitional wealth sort of business buyer. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, there's a reason why Warren Buffett is in his mid-90s and still goes to work every day. There's a reason why, almost every billionaire on the billionaire list still goes to work, even though they're 80, or they would never have to work ever. Do you know who the people who don't want to go to work are? The people who've been making, $40,000 to $200,000 a year in employment, who are just burned out. Well, don't take that mentality into what you're getting into. Now, that doesn't mean buy something you know, like, or love. I'm a huge naysayer when it comes to do what you know, like, or love. You'll never work a day in life. I think that's just as stupid. Just as stupid, for reasons I'm sure either you have heard me speak about or will if you keep listening to the podcast. But you should be asking yourself, okay, I'm going to pick a business that's smart, because we covered that, right? Pick a business that's smart, even though I might not know it or I might not like it, but it produces the revenue and the time that I need. And then ask yourself, what can I do with this business? Especially if it's your first or second one. What can I do with it? Can you market, create relationships, network, find better employees, come up with different systems to put in place? It doesn't mean you're the one that's stamping out the widgets on the press or something, but you should be asking yourself, how do I get involved? Because to me, especially with your foundational businesses, And I know it's kind of weird in talking in concepts of owning multiple, but how I break it down is I have foundational businesses, and then I have kind of revenue producers that I don't really get involved in. And then I have flyers. Flyers are ones that, dude, if it works, I'm going to make a mint. If it doesn't affect my life at all if it fails. So anyway, with your first 1, 2, 3 businesses or whatever, those should be your foundational businesses. Those are the ones that you're going to want to lead. You're going to want to be involved. Why would you not? Why would you not? Like, to me, that just mentally doesn't make sense. And sure, it sounds appealing when somebody's like, oh, buy a business with no money down and be an absentee owner and just sit back and earn money all day watching Jerry Springer and eating bonbons. That sounds like a terrible life to me. Fun for 2 days, but terrible after that. What I want to do is I want to get involved in something, especially on my foundational businesses, where I know I can make an impact, where I feel like my life mattered, where if I die, something bad necessarily doesn't take the business down, but it's felt. You know what I mean? Like, there's no doubt if I keeled over dead in the next 4 seconds, Acquisitional Wealth is going to have a little bit of a problem moving forward, especially offering the same content that I can offer. And that's not to say somebody great can't fill the seat too. That's not what I'm saying, but you get the point, right? I'm involved with this. And I don't understand why people don't want to be. So does that make sense? I hope it does. Between this idea of no money down and then absentee ownership on your first 1 or 2 or even 3 businesses, you really got to be asking yourself why. What does that say more about you than it does what you're trying to do? And if you're doing this right, you should be having a bunch of free time. It's not like you should be working 40, 50, 80, 70, 120 hours a week. So you'll have free time. You'll also have revenue in your pocket, cash flow. But you should also be engaged, because at the end of the day, what you should really be thinking when it comes to acquisitional wealth, or what I hope you're thinking, is how do you develop your skill set as a business person? Not just somebody who owns businesses. That's so that's But somebody who really perfects their craft and is proud of their craft. It's interesting. You see these like period show sort of Netflix series or whatever, and they're gold miners or silversmiths or woodworkers or whatever. And there's so much pride, even today, and rightfully so. I'm not saying it's wrong, but even today, you have union members who are part of the railroad union, and they're proud, of their skills as railroad people and pilots, and yeah. Well, you should have that same pride and depth of study and character and in embracing being an entrepreneur. It's a craft. It's a set of skills. It's something that you should hone and study and read the old masters and, want to embrace with such vigor that you do any other sort of hobby or pursuit that you might have. And too often, and this translates beyond even just business, too often we're seeing people abandon all things that have that sort of that passion and power to it. And I guess you're getting a little free bonus with this acquisitional wealth episode, but it's true. Hobbies are down. Martial art involvements is down. Flying, which I love, is down. Sports participation in schools is down. School participation in dances and social clubs are down. Why? Because we are allowing ourselves to be numbed. We are allowing ourselves to say, wow, life sucks out there outside my home. I'm going to come into my home, eat some unhealthy food just to make my stomach stop gurgling, and then turn on a show that I can just get lost in and watch those people pursue their passions, watch those people enjoy life, and I'm going to live vicariously through the characters developed. Now, as a writer, I want you to. I do. I want you to enjoy the characters I write, right? But at the same time, I want you to have passion about your life beyond just acquisitional wealth. I hope this series is blessing you. But man, I remember I was a teenager when I started getting involved in martial arts. And not only did I practice, but I read and I studied and I looked up, old masters, dead and alive. I watched, anything I could in terms of documentaries. Same thing is true when I became a ham radio operator. I just didn't take the test. No, man, I wanted to know how transistors worked and what is an ohm. And, I wanted to know. Well, ignite that fire again and let acquisitional wealth, let buying a company be a massive, massive fuel to your fire. Because if you think about it, hobbies are great. I still do martial arts 3 days a week. And, I'm now in the process of trying to learn how to fly helicopters. So I'm still involved in that. And I get it. All those pursuits are wonderful. But those are individual pursuits. Sure, you might save a life once in 50 years using your martial arts. Actually, now that I say that, I've saved more than one life. But you get the point. It's not an everyday occurrence. And sure, flying your family to vacation spot is cool, but that's not an everyday impactful occurrence. But when you own a company, when there are 10 employees that are working for you, that's not just 10 people. That's them, their spouses, their kids, the schools those kids are involved in, the stores that those people shop at, are all impacted by you and your passion. How does that not fire you up to want to be involved, to want to study, to want to perfect your craft? And that's not even to mention the community itself, the jobs that you offer. Every election cycle, whatever side you vote for, what do they all talk about? Oh, we're going to create jobs. We're going to create jobs. Well, the reality is they don't. No politician creates jobs. I don't care what side you're on. It doesn't work that way. Who creates the jobs? You do. So really, they're just talking about, which side is going to make it better for you. But at the end of the day, you're the ones that are building the community. You're the ones that are deciding whether this city has an economic downturn or not. How do you not get passionate about that? So instead of asking yourself, what is the least amount I can put down and what is the least time I can commit? You should be really asking yourself, with the budget that I have, what is the most I can put into this? And with the time that you have, what is the most I can do to develop myself? Ask what's the most, not the least. It amazes me. It amazes me, and I'll end with this. It amazes me how many people, when it comes to pursuing passions and pursuing dreams and pursuing whatever, are settling for the bottom. The bottom. What's the least I can do? Bubba, I'm sitting here thinking, how do I become Jeff Bezos? How do I become Elon Musk? Of course, without the evil Illuminati connections. But I'm asking myself, how do I shoot for the stars and at least hit the moon? I'm not sitting here thinking, well, can I just make a model rocket and be happy with that? And that allows me to just chill at home and watch Netflix? Really? And like I said, this translates everywhere. I'm assuming most people watching this are teenagers or above, so this is a little PG story. But I remember I was at this place with some buddies, and we saw this pretty girl riding a bicycle. And this is a little crude. I didn't say it. A friend of mine did. But he says, man, I would love to be that bike seat, right? And again, crude, but let's be honest, boys are boys. We are built to want relations, right? But I remember looking at this guy. I call him a kid. Once you get old, everybody's a kid. And he wasn't a kid, he was an adult. But I remember looking at this guy going, really? Really? Yeah, man, I would love to be the bike seat. I'm like, dude, you had any wish you wanted, and you wish to be the bike seat? Well, and it was just this look of like, well, what are you talking about? If you're going to make a wish to be the guy she's sleeping with. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I don't mean this to be crude, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, really? You're gonna come up with a dream and like, oh, this is what I want to do. And you want to be the bike seat? I would rather be the guy she comes home to if this is going to be my dream. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing is true. I remember I was living in Seattle, and we saw Paul Allen's yacht go by, and I was standing next to somebody else. And this guy's like, man, someday I'm going to work on a yacht like that. What? So we're sitting here and you're coming up with a dream, and your dream is to work on the yacht? What? At least dream of owning the yacht, like if that's your thing. But what? And I don't want to see that happen with you when it comes to acquisitional wealth. You should really be thinking, the more I put in, the higher the rate of success. So the more security I have, not the less. The less you put in, the more insecurity you have. So what's the most I can put in, and how do I develop myself so I can get in there and make the world a better place through owning this business? All right, that does it for today. Hit subscribe if you're listening to this in a mode that has subscriptions, whether audio or video. Obviously, share with other people. Become part of the Facebook page and group where we have discussions and Q&As. Come to some of our events. Unlike a lot of these internet gurus, right? 99% of what we do is free or extremely low cost. Like I'm doing an event coming up here, $10, and it's really just to help cover the costs. And I know in this world of, create programs and sell memberships and all that sort of crap, people look at me all the time and they're like, dude, your content is way better and yet you're offering it for free. That's stupid. No, I'm offering it for free so it gets out there. I'm offering it for free because I don't have to make my money selling memberships. I'm doing what I'm teaching you. So be part of it. Join. Like let's have just a fun rip-raring time doing this. And then until I see you next time, be blessed.